We've got Governor Scott Walker with us now in an exclusive on radio this morning. CPAC, as you know, kicks off today. And so let's ask the governor who joins us now what his thoughts are. Governor Scott Walker, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, great to be with you.
Okay, so Governor, today we have Rand Paul, Marco Rubio. A lot of young guns are traveling to CPAC to make big speeches, and this is, of course, on the heels of the filibuster. I don't have to tell you there was a little bit of Republican division there between John McCain and Rand Paul, sort of the old guard versus the new guard. What did you think of the Rand Paul filibuster?
Well, I thought, the interesting thing was the president and his administration put them in the position to have that in the first place. If they just had simply answered the question, there wouldn't have been a need or a focus on that. Clearly, there's some legitimate national security debate about that, but it just, more than anything, it shows the kind of condescending attitude we often hear out of this administration that they don't need to respond to the others in the other branches of government. So I think for a lot of people across America, no matter what they think about the details of the drone debate, the fact of the matter is somebody was willing to stand up to the president and hold him accountable for something in his administration. I think that's where, more than anything, where you got the broad appeal for the filibuster.
Do you think that it was wrong for Republicans like McCain and Lindsey Graham to criticize Rand Paul?
Yeah, I question that. Again, I understand some of the concerns they raised, but why bring it up there? I mean, in the end, what the filibuster produced was the Attorney General, the administration having to come out and answer and clarify exactly what they meant. Why there had to be a debate within the debate on that just seemed to be a little bit odd in that regard. Again, I understand there's a larger national security debate about that and other issues out there, but it didn't seem to me, at least, that was the right place to interject that. And I thought there was a pretty clear point that, more than anything, that this administration had to be held accountable, that they couldn't do things unilaterally without consulting with other branches of government. And that's why I thought the filibuster was pretty good. It was kind of good old-fashioned grassroots populism, and we don't see that much in Washington.
Mm-hmm. And I think it injected a new energy into the Republican Party that it desperately needs. It proved what a lot of people have been saying. We have this deep bench of talent that's out there. We've just yet to see them really shine. I would argue, though, you, Governor Scott Walker, are one of the first to really step up and shine. Another one to really step up is your fellow Wisconsin native, Paul Ryan, who just released his budget. Do you think he has any thoughts about running for the White House in the next election?
Yeah, Paul's a good friend. Actually, we grew up down the road from each other. He was about 15 miles away. I laughed when Mitt Romney called Janesville, Paul's hometown, a small town, because I grew up in a town about 7,000. So for us, a big night in the town was going to Janesville to the Shakey's for pizza there. But per your question, Paul, Paul, one of the great things about Paul, and I advocated for Paul early on, in fact, June 6th, the day after my recall election, when I was on TV on Fox, and I think it was Hannity asked me who I thought Mitt Romney should pick, and I said, hands down, there's a lot of great candidates, but I'd put Paul Ryan on the ticket. And the reason is because Paul's not driven by ambition, which goes to the heart of your question. I don't know if he's going to or not, but I do know something for sure, and that is Paul Ryan is not driven by ambition, which is unusual in politics. Paul Ryan doesn't want to be somebody great. He wants to do something great. And so the budget he put on the table, again this week, is not driven by some future election or some future campaign. It is really what he believes deep within his heart needs to happen. And he believes that the people like him and others in Washington, both political parties, are obligated to put real, bold, big ideas on the table to balance our budget and get our economy back on track. And that's the kind of leadership we need, whether he continues to grow in leadership in the House or someday he's a candidate to be our nation's top leader.
So if he ran, Governor, would you support him?
Oh, like I said, I'm the president of the Paul Ryan fan club, so I was an advocate for him for VP. If he's out in the field, I'd be a big supporter of his, because I think, in general, I'm biased towards executives, towards governors, but to me, he's one of the few exceptions I would look at of somebody coming out of a role that wasn't a governor, who's got that same sort of executive type experience. He's got the leadership. He's the one who, remember, years ago when he started out with his blueprint for prosperity, there were, a handful of lawmakers who signed on. Now, yet again, this past year he had all but a handful that in his caucus that didn't vote for it. That's a sign of leadership. He didn't wait.
He is the leader. That is definitely for sure. What about these other governors like Rick Scott and John Kasich who are getting criticism for flip-flopping on Obamacare by taking those Medicaid dollars? Governor Walker, any thoughts on them flip-flopping on that issue?
Well, every state's unique, so it's hard to talk specific. I can tell you why I didn't and why it was a little frustrating to hear of others who did not. A couple of weeks ago, I and a bunch of governors were out in our annual trek out to Washington, and we pay a visit to visit the president. Both political parties are there, governors. And it was interesting because all the debate was about the sequester. Everybody was talking about the sequester. The debate was, do the sequester cuts go into effect? And obviously they did. Do you provide a viable alternative, which I and others suggest the president should do just like governors do? Or do you do what the president wanted at the time, which was to raise taxes and maybe make some unforeseen cuts in the future? But nobody was denying that there was a deficit problem. Everybody understood that something had to happen. It was a question of what.
Well, Governor Walker, I have to say, you are on the front lines here. You are the man I would say a lot in the GOP are looking at as the template for what should be done in the states. You are doing it. Governor Scott Walker, I hope you run. And one of my guests actually floated your name the other day, you should know. So I'm very happy you were able to join me on the show today. I appreciate your time. You really are a hero to a lot of members of the GOP. Thank you so much, Governor.
Thank you.